When Apollo 11 first landed humans on the moon in the summer of 1969, they noted that we came in peace for all mankind. While it's certainly true that the landing of humans on the moon was and is arguably the greatest triumph of humanity, it's also true that it was a uniquely American accomplishment. In this episode, we'll take a look at an artifact that is singularly symbolic of what John F. Kennedy called a great new American enterprise. Hello collectors and space fans, I'm Jim Frangione and welcome back for another episode of Taking Up Space, the place where space history lives and where every artifact tells a story. If you're as passionate as I am about the history of spaceflight and collecting vintage artifacts and space age memorabilia, you're going to want to click on the subscribe button and notification bell down below so that you don't miss out on a single episode. When we think about iconic images that come from the Apollo program to land humans on the moon, and to be sure there are a lot of them, whether it be Apollo 8's Earthrise photo or the picture of the human boot print left on the moon during that first landing of Apollo 11, it seems to me that a great many of them also include the American flag. Who could forget the image of Buzz Aldrin's salute from July of 1969, or of Gene Cernan during the Apollo 17 mission, which also includes a space-age photobomb for all of humanity, with the whole of planet Earth appearing in the sky above him. From launch photos to beta cloth patches worn on the suits of the astronauts, while it was humans going to the moon, it's impossible to get away from the fact that those humans came from the United States of America. Apollo, to be clear, was the mother of all American endeavors, and today it still stands as the greatest of all time. While these photos show the most prominently placed of American flags from the program, there were American flags, state flags, and even flags of other nations carried on Apollo spacecraft as they journeyed to and from the moon. As this photo illustrates, many astronauts took along their own stash of flags and other items as part of their allotted allowance for personal belongings in fireproof beta cloth bags known as personal preference kits, or PPKs. Today's artifact is one such flag that comes from the personal collection of astronaut Walt Cunningham. This flag here, which is mounted to a presentation certificate from Walt, flew on the mission of Apollo 7, the very first Apollo mission in 1968, which would set the stage for the triumphant glory that followed in every single Apollo spacecraft that flew thereafter. Flown items hold a special place of significance in the space collecting community. This flag is certainly no different. The idea that they were there and that they reflect a particular meaning and/or significance to the astronaut who thought enough to include them in their very limited personal allowance for weight on board the spacecraft speaks volumes. For me personally, as a veteran of the US Navy, an American flag, whether flown or unflown, would have to figure into my collection of space program artifacts for this reason alone, but certainly too for the other reasons I've just alluded to. The American flag is inextricably linked to the iconography contained within the history of the Apollo program. It's as if the flag were the fourth member of the crew, a physical representation of the American taxpayers who funded it, and more than 400,000 American workers who put it all together and made it all happen. And we still see that extra crew member represented today, most recently in the form of the American flag retrieved by the crew of the SpaceX Demo 2 mission, itself left on board the International Space Station upon the departure of the last space shuttle mission flight of STS-135 back in 2011. The flag in general, for me, is all of those things, while I also have an unflown beta cloth flag in my collection. That this one was flown on the very first Apollo mission, well, its emblematic weight far exceeds that of the fine silk of which it's constructed. That it was brought into space by a member of that first crew, traveled 4.5 million miles, and stayed with that astronaut for decades before coming directly to my collection only adds to the power of its mystique. Of all the things in my collection, if I had to pick just one artifact that summed up the entire meaning and significance of the Apollo program, I would likely choose this flag as the singularly most representative artifact of the entire endeavor. It's just so emblematic of that great new American enterprise. It speaks to our better angels and of our capabilities as Americans. It was on board that first ship to set sail, and its likeness will be found in every iconic image of that human accomplishment for as long as human beings shall continue to exist. In a nutshell, it visually packs a lot of punch. And that's the story for today's artifact, folks. I hope you've enjoyed seeing it and hearing a little bit about one of the crown jewels in my personal space collection. I know I've certainly enjoyed sharing it with you. As always, I want to thank you for tuning into this channel. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up down below. And feel free to let me know your thoughts by dropping me an email at jim.takinupspace@gmail.com. Until next time, collectors and space fans, keep your head held high and keep your eyes on the stars.